Thank you for waiting for my address. I know it's the end of the very, very long day, and I'm sure you guys have had very interesting sessions. So I'm going to keep this crisp, get right into it, and try very hard to hold your attention at this hour. So let's start. I think the topic was how do we tailor brands for tomorrow? How do we reimagine fashion? How do we reimagine the world? And in today's context, when so much is changing, the world has literally, after COVID, after the pandemic, after it changed the way we worked, the way we interacted, the way we related, our professional lives, our personal lives, everything just went through this major change. It's really a very interesting topic because fashion is really a society's mirror. So it is a reflection of, it's just not about clothes. It's a reflection of everything that changes in society. It's a mirror, it is very editable, it's extremely expressive, and it's in real time. So if you want to see how a society is doing, how people are dressing, how they're expressing themselves, how traditional it is vis-a-vis how progressive it is, I think fashion is a great pulse or barometer of that. So in one picture of how people dress and how people are, you can guess what's really going on in that society. And what's happening in India is paradoxical, India is exciting, India is many Indias in one. And I really believe in that because it's very difficult to actually describe India. It's very difficult to say there is one India, one homogeneous society. No, it's an India where we can have the best clubs, the most beautiful international standard restaurants. It's in India where you can have the world's largest gathering of Kumbh Mela. The world has never seen a religious gathering of that size ever in the last hundreds of years. So, and both Indias coexist. And both Indias are equally important and equally dear to the citizens of that India. So therefore, it's very dynamic, and hence, for us, people who work in this industry, it's complicated, it's challenging, every day is exciting and a little bit, I would say, a little bit of adrenaline rush every morning because it's not a simple market. So it's very dynamic. The preferences of people are shifting so much. I tell you, I've been in the industry for so long. If you try to cater to, let's say, a South Delhi or to a South Bombay woman customer, probably she chooses the same things as somebody in New York or London does. But the moment you go to Chennai, it's completely different. The fit, the fabric, the colors. Yeah, you go to Northeast, it's totally different. They're very inspired by Korean fashion. So the preferences, again, we have to really think about catering to multiple countries at the same time. And then, of course, there is, again, a paradox. India is so cutting edge on tech, whether it's fintech, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's quick commerce. The speed of quick commerce that we have in India is maybe from other than Korea. I have not seen it. You can get things in 5 minutes. You can't do that in US, you can't do that in France, you can't do that in UK. So we are at the cutting edge of technology. But at the same time, this is the India where people spend maximum amount of money on weddings, on heritage. So it's a paradox. Everything, everywhere you turn, you are met with another paradox. However, it's a huge opportunity. We're talking about this market going to $350 billion by 2030. It's 5 years away. It's growing tremendously at 25%. So it's really critical for us to understand this market. And we have to figure out, yes, this is the truth. As a marketer or as a brand builder, life would be much simpler if it was a homogeneous market. Yeah? If I didn't have to deal with 10 countries instead of dealing with one. But the fact is, it is what it is. And it's also an opportunity because not too many global players can understand that. If you look at Europe, Europe as a whole may be more homogeneous for a fashion brand than India is for an Indian brand we have to deal with so many countries. So that's the uniqueness. Those are the subtle nuances of what India offers. Challenge, but the other side of coin is a great opportunity for homegrown entrepreneurs, homegrown marketers, homegrown brand builders to create something that we understand about our country. And that's why we see an explosion of just amazing brands. And I started Cover Story a long time ago. And just to tell you a little backstory, I worked in my entire career with international brands. I brought the international brands in India, launched them, scaled them, etc., opened a lot of stores, pioneered that whole international brands coming into India a long time ago. And I love spending time on the shop floor. So when I would go and try to serve the customers on a Friday, Saturday evening, I found they love the product, but when they go in the trial room, and I'm talking from a woman customer point of view, the sleeve, because it's a German brand, women are pretty tall there, oh, it doesn't fit. So there is a dissatisfaction. I love the style, but it doesn't fit me. Or you go to a typical Indian brand, and it fits me, but it's not very international in its style. And I said, oh, why don't I marry the two things? Let's just marry. So I set up a design studio in London and a merchandising team here in India. So we combined the two things. Runway, whenever it happens, as soon as it happens, not copying the Zaras of the world, looking at the international runway by setting up our own office in London, and then merchandising it through the eyes of the Indian woman. What fits her? How tall is she? Does she like transparent things? In October, it's still pretty warm in most of the country, including Delhi. But in October in Europe, it's very, very cold. And having worked with international brands, I had, come across these challenges and had to solve for them for the Indian market. So that's how a homegrown brand was born, trying to create a nuanced, a creative solution specific and unique to our market. And that's where the opportunity is, the uniqueness of India and the nuances of India throw a huge amount of opportunities for many entrepreneurs. So what are the what I feel are there are four key drivers. It's about localization, which is like the backstory of Cover Story, which I have spoken about. If you look at McDonald's, they've done it successfully in India with their food. And I think a lot of large companies who are looking at scale, per force, they have to customize and localize for India. The diversity, our calendar, retail calendar, every year we sit and say, Shadi ka dates kya hai? Right? Even for a Cover Story, which is a Western wear brand, we have to look at, because in a lot of this big, fat Indian wedding, at least one function now, people wear Western clothes. Now, those Shadi ka dates are not something relevant to a Zara or anyone else. Now, this is a nuance for India that we can cater for the Indian market. So it's such a big thing. Wedding is so big. Festivals are Onam, Pongal. I mean, it's you know the whole drill. So that is very unique. Localization, as I have discussed already, is very unique. And emotional storytelling. I think in India, it's really critical to talk about how you relate, because the storytelling, the roots, and the cultural traditions, the relationships, family networks are very, very important to us as people. So, and layer on that e-commerce. So, very rooted and technology. E-commerce is growing a lot. It gives a lot of opportunity, again, to take your brand and go through the D2C route because real estate is very expensive. E-commerce adaptability and there are 800 million internet users in India is growing by leaps and bounds. So it just opens a pathway to really reimagine fashion and create a brand for Indian market through this platform. So if you look at the fast fashion market, so e-commerce is one big opportunity. The fast fashion market in India is a big opportunity. And I put the likes of Trends, which is a Reliance retail, a very affordable, Zudio, which a Tata Group format, Cover Story, which is a more premium fast fashion format. We are actually, if you look at the stories of the Indian retailers, in the top 20 retailers in India, I think more than 60-70% are local homegrown companies who have fast overtaken international fashion. So I think going back to the topic of today, I feel India, we have to reimagine fashion through an Indian lens to really gear ourselves up for the next 5 years. Again, sustainability is going to be really important. It's another very key pillar because what's happening is the Gen Z and the younger customers, they're talking about sustainability, climate, so on. So I think it'll become hygiene for brands to really work on sustainability, work with craftsmanship, artisan. It's really brands doing good and how customers connect to the brands emotionally. This may be a very high-level discussion today. However, I feel 5 to 7 years down the line, it'll be hygiene. It'll be expected of all of us in fashion. Fashion's got a lot of flack recently because we are supposed to be the second or third most polluting industry across the world. So I think this is going to be hygiene going forward. And lots of good work is happening on the material side, on circular fashion. This is something that we need to gear up for in the short term, mid-term, and long term. Inclusivity, again, as I talked about, multiple Indias, multiple regional nuances, preferences, so on. There's also diversity, which is, again, really important for the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and so on. I think inclusivity is going to be a really important theme. A lot of brands internationally have been playing on it. I think in India, it will just make sense, given how heterogeneous the market is, to try and make that a key pillar of range architecture, product architecture, or even in terms of distribution networks. We've talked about the wedding and festival. I don't see it going away. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, the wedding market. So I think it's still going to be something that brands have to really really allocate resources and products for. Another big trend that we have seen, I have been noticing this in the last, and I think particularly after COVID, this is 10x growth in athleisure, sneakers, footwear is just incredible. The average retail price of sneakers, people are just buying sneakers for 20,000, 20, and I'm not talking about the top 10%, I'm talking about even average people. They are very wellness, this whole wellness segment, health, working out, this is becoming really a huge lifestyle. And that change has happened post-2022. So last 3-4 years, this is a tremendous market where there are hardly any brands really available. So there is, again, when I look at the market going 5 years down the line, where I would like to, have something, a product range, this is a very interesting market for me. And if you look at what's happening, lots of international brands, luxury, if you take luxury, we are growing, Indian luxury market, even though it's a low base, is growing at 15 to 17% per annum. In mature markets, it's like 3%. with all the things that are happening around the world right now with tariffs and international trade, there is really, India is one beacon of hope for luxury players like Chanel or Vuitton or Dior around the world. And you see that. They already are Ananya Pandey becoming the face of Chanel. So the luxury brands can see it, that in the next 5 years, Indian consumers are going to be really, really key for them. So I think we haven't really built a super luxury brand in India, although we have centuries of craftsmanship, centuries of making beautiful products, in jewelry, in textile. So I think there is a big opportunity here in tailoring product and brand specifically for luxury. Why just let a Chanel and Dior take the luxury market? I think we should be looking at creating something here as well. In 2019, I was approached by Karl Lagerfeld. Karl Lagerfeld that time was head of Chanel design, and he was iconic, as we all know. They approached us to do the first ever capsule collection in India, Karl Lagerfeld for Cover Story. It's in the history of organized retail in India, this has never been done before. It was supremely iconic, extremely successful, and the quality of the product that Cover Story created for this capsule collection, in the words of the Karl Lagerfeld team who were here, was top-notch, was as good as they saw in Paris or anywhere else in the world. So we can do it. We can do it. And the fun fact is they approached us after having seen a store of ours, wanting to do a collaboration with us. So it's possible. I feel India gives huge opportunity, right from the top of the pyramid to the bottom. And we have multiple Indias and many, many, many brands to be created. I have created 2. I'm working on a 3rd one. I'm happy to see so many fantastic D2C brands. There is The Snitch, there is Soul Stores, there is Comet in sneakers, there is Fable Street for women's wear. I'm so thrilled to see the maturity and the amazing storytelling and the quality of product that is being created in India. And I see that as the future of Indian fashion. Brands created for India, but as good as brands created anywhere else. And one day, I would love to see brands going out of India and becoming not just Indian brands, brands created in India, but for the whole world. Yeah? So that's it. And I put a picture of our store down in ambience, so do visit it. Maybe what we are trying to do, the store will give you an experience of that. Thank you very much.